Hello and welcome to Brit Reviews It Also. Today I actually just finished watching season 3, episode 6 of Chucky, the TV series on Peacock. So that episode is titled Panic Room. So it says, armed with new weapons, Chucky aims to become the most prolific serial killer in history. So the episode in itself, it was actually really good. Basically we knew that Chucky, he was not gonna make it. His body is pretty much dying. So we're just pretty much following him in his big the big thing that he wants to do, to just be known as the craziest serial killer there ever was, one of the greatest. I would say that this particular episode was kind of like, I don't know. It's like I was watching it just to kind of be like, okay, now we're going here. Now he's going here. So Chucky is basically going around the house, the White House, just taking people out one by one in order to get to where he was trying to get to, which was the panic room. It is the room where the president will have the codes and things to be able to, basically Chucky's deal was he wanted to start a war, and he had specific places that he wanted to blow up. He called it the Armageddon, he called it World War III, he called it all kinds of things. This guy, first of all, one of the craziest things in this episode, that there is actually a doppelganger for the president. And for the president's wife, that had to be insane to have to see that in person. I think that probably would have drove me crazy. The people that are basically stepping in to deal with the stuff that was going on in the White House, they basically forced her to be able to stay with her children in this house, the White House, while all this stuff was going on. Because initially she was like, forget this. We are getting out of here. Get my kids, get their things, grab something. Let's go. Get out of here. It's a ghost in here. It took out my husband. No. But they forced her to basically stay and basically play this role and bring in the doppelganger of the president. And then the plan was to basically make it seem like he was sick and that he passed away in that way, versus letting the people know in the country what really, really happened. And I think it was insane that they were basically saying, you have to stay here and your kids have to stay here, knowing what the heck happened in that house. Absolutely not. You could have let them leave while y'all deal with whatever was going on, in my opinion. So Chucky is still walking around, wheeling around, and he has the little boy toting him around everywhere. He's extremely old. He's weak. Barely can do enough. It's like it takes a lot of energy out of him to do anything, right? So that's what's happening. So Chucky comes across the doppelganger and basically forces him to take him down to wherever the area is where they have the panic room, with a gun, which he had the little boy take him, and he used a code, which was the deceased brother's birthday. Used the code, got in there in the safe, and got a gun. And he used the gun on the doppelganger to force him to take him to where they were trying to go. Now, while all of this is going on, Jake and everybody else, they came over for that afternoon to have dinner and a movie with the oldest president's son. And it's just, on that particular night, that it was just all over the place. The mom, she's losing her mind. She's stuck in just a state of shock. So that's all going on. He's over here entertaining them. They're there for we know why, because they still are trying to find Carolyn. The only person who knows where she is obviously Chucky, right? So they have to find her. So they have to get to him before he passes. Now, in the end, I will say, Let's see. As far as some of the Secret Service, I think Chucky probably got rid of 2 more in this episode on his way to the panic room. The last one, it was like, dude, you probably could have made it, but you leaned forward while Chucky was standing in front of you and he had a pen and he used it to his advantage. Now, Chucky, he said, he doesn't really like using guns. He was actually unalived with one, and he was just like, yeah, but sometimes, you just gotta move faster than what you're basically saying right now. He got to use what he got to get to where he's trying to get to before he's gone. So they finally make their way to the panic room. Mind you, Jake and all of them, they finally came out with the full, complete truth and told the other presidents and the oldest boy, told him what was going on, and was like, you need to believe me because this is real. Your brother is with Chucky. We gotta get to him now. And they're not too far along. It's like everybody's figuring out something is not right, and they're making their way down to the same area. Chucky's already made it in there. He has the doppelganger sitting in the seat, using the president's voice, saying the codes and whatnot. This guy, Chucky, he had the president's eyeball in his pocket this whole time because he knew that he was probably going to need that in order to set off in order to get the approval to do what he was trying to do. Now, that was like ill, really, but we're talking about Chucky. Now we understand why he gouged out his eyes. That was one of the reasons why. Okay, so he does that. This dude, he says that he wants to take out the North Pole because when he passes, he wants to pass with knowing that the future children of the world will know that Santa doesn't exist because there's no North Pole. How evil is that? Which we know he's very evil. So all of this is happening. They are basically this close to getting ready to hit the last step forward, which is to hit the button to send off the missiles. Jake and the crew, they all made it down by this point with the president's older son, and they're banging on the door. Thank goodness that the little boy, he finally turned around and saw them. And while Chucky was doing all of what he was doing, Chucky coughed, and there was blood on his hands, and he was just like, But while all of that was going on, he was able to, the little boy turned around and he ran and opened the door and let them in. So, of course, the big brother, he grabs his little brother and pulls him out of the room. Thank goodness, because that's what my brain was saying. Do that. And then they say something to Chucky, and he's like, yeah, you're not going to, basically saying, you're not going to know where she is. I'm already dying. So, basically like a ha, joke's on you type of thing. And baby Jake is ready to take him out. And they're like, no, you cannot do that yet because I need to get this information from him. But when I say the other Secret Service and all of them, they were not too far behind Jake and the crew. And as they were coming, here they come. Chucky was getting ready, and he's talking, doing all this talking. He's basically getting ready to, no, I know what happened. Jake grabbed Chucky's feet. I think when he was turning around, he did something and made him fall, which made him, the gun slid toward the doppelganger president. So he grabs it, and they're holding him, at gunpoint at this point. And while Chucky's doing this, the other Secret Service guy, which I thought the doppelganger president pulled the trigger, but it was actually the Secret Service guy. He pulled it, and at this point Chucky is blood, flesh, bone. He's full all up in there. And so when he did that, that basically took him out, and he fell. But when Chucky fell to the table, I already knew then that he wasn't completely gone just yet. And 9 times out of 10, he was going to crawl his way to hit that button and send off the missiles. They were able to abort 2 of the ones that he had waiting to send off, but even though he had just said abort, they hadn't canceled everything just yet. Chucky hit the button and it set off the one. I think it went to the North Pole, so that one ended up. So I'm gonna have to keep watching it. 2 more episodes, 7 and 8, to see what happened, what was the outcome of that. Because it went into some water, but the with it hitting in that area, it sent off a really huge aftershock. So I don't know what was affected, but I'm gonna find out. And when Chucky hit the button, it was like after that, everything, his body just disappeared. It was nothing but the dust from his bones. It was it, and his shoes were left, and that was it. Of course, Carolyn, we still don't know where she is. You know, they didn't get that information from Chucky before he passed or he was killed, which sucks because it's like, crap. Okay, so where are they gonna go from there, and how are they gonna find this little girl, because her mind is still warped. In the end, they were trying to tell, oh, we need to shut this down, and the first lady, she was like, you stay away from me and my children. Stay away from my children. And they left her alone. So they ended up basically with everybody just still kind of standing in the right there by the door in the panic room, and then inside the panic room they were still sitting there. And the littlest boy, he was like looking at the doppelganger president. He's like, that's not my dad. And they're looking at the mom like, Mom, what's happening? When she told them, her children would know. They would be able to recognize that is not their dad. So we are going to have to see what is going to happen moving forward, because at the very end of the episode, we saw the ghost of Chucky, not the doll Chucky, but the actual guy, and his real name is not coming to my mind right now. Y'all know Chucky's real name, but he was there, him. And so I'm like, okay, so will his ghost be in the White House now? Is he going to be really terrorizing them as a ghost? Where do we go from here? Is he going to take possession of a body? Probably the little boy or the oldest boy. Like, what is he going to do next? And, you know, what happens to Tiffany? What happens to Caroline? Those are the unanswered questions. So I'm going to continue watching, and I'm going to figure out what else happened. And I will be back with more videos for Chucky, the TV series. Bye, y'all.